This video is brought to you by AKSIAS.
Yeah, what's wrong with bamboo chicken? Mm. Mm. Yeah, it makes sense. Like he's saying about this, demand for bamboo chicken, especially in these parts like coastal Andhra, that Godavari districts and parts of that Araku Valley near Maredumilli forest. There, tourists go there, and tourists demand for this so-called bamboo chicken. And what they have to do, they have to cut the bamboo trees. And yes, as more and more tourists throng to those places and more they demand for the so-called bamboo chicken, definitely it will have impact on the bamboo trees, isn't it? There is a small concept called as sustainable tourism. Means our tourism should not wreak a havoc on the local ecosystems. It's not a tourism. Tourism also must be in a sustainable manner, ma. When you go to a place, when you go to some place, it's not that you create a disaster there and you come back. We must be as minimal as we can. We must not try to disrupt the ecosystems. I know terms like ecosystems and all you are not aware. You will get to know once we start discussing the basic concept. But yes, you go there. We often do this, right? Like people go for what do you call this, jungle safaris and all, and they wear bright colored clothes and they wear that deodorants with strong smells. So it will definitely have impact on the animals, ma. We may think, is it that big an impact it will have on the animal? Definitely animals also will get distracted with these smells, get distracted with these colors and the sounds of the vehicles. And the moment you see some animal, we all tend to shout maniacally, and the animal will get scared. All these things will have impact on there. Definitely it will have impact on there. I just want to tell one simple example. The same topic I'll discuss in the class also. There is a phenomenon called as light pollution. Have you heard about this? We must be thinking, that's what light pollution. Can lights pollute? Huh? How can they pollute? Acha, I am not talking in that sense. You're trying to say that incandescent bulbs, they consume more electricity, and yeah, it's not in that sense. Light pollution is light pollution. Yes, ma. Actually, lights can also pollute. Lights can also pollute means lights also can have impact on the ecosystems. Have you seen in the recent times, all the traffic lights installed, they aren't as bright as the lights which were in the previous times. Have you ever observed? The present time lights are not that bright. They are less brighter. And also, if you guys have observed, in the previous times lights used to be, say, like this, or some lights used to be like this. But if you observe now, all the lights without exception, they'll be facing down. New ones, newly installed ones. Why? It's because the previous era lights, they used to scatter lots of light back into space, and they cause light pollution. Some species of birds called as migratory birds, how they navigate from one place to another place. Somewhere from Siberia they are coming to Palapadu bird sanctuary in near Vijayawada. Is there any GPS in there? How they navigate? Yeah, they navigate with the help of stars. That's how they usually navigate their places. So let's say some group of birds, a group of 1,000 Siberian cranes. There is Aminpur Lake near Miapur. Hyderabad locals must be aware. It's a biodiversity heritage site actually. Right in the heart of the city, you have this Aminpur Lake. You have thousands of winter birds coming there for migration. That's the reason government has demarcated as a biodiversity heritage site. And the region also is reasonably well protected. It's well protected. It's very close to Miapur only. People in Hyderabad must be aware. Locals must be. And by any chance, these birds which are supposed to Aminpur Lake, because of light pollution, if they end up in Hussain Sagar, what would happen? All of them will, isn't it? See, they come to Aminpur Lake, they lay eggs, they hatch their eggs. or they have source of food because Aminpur Lake is an unpolluted lake. They have fishes there. They have access to food. They have some shelter points. They have breeding sites. So it's okay if they come to Aminpur Lake. By any chance, if they miss their address and they end up in Hussain Sagar, all the 1,000 birds will go extinct in 2-3 generations. Isn't it? It's highly likely, right? It's commonsensical also. This is nothing but light pollution. Of course, we will discuss in little more detail about this idea of light pollution. But yes, even lights can also pollute. Even lights can also disrupt the ecosystems. Lights can also have impact on the sustenance of several living organisms, including humans, isn't it? We also have this light pollution, right? This smartphone, isn't it? Nights we remain awake till watching random things. We remain awake till 12, 1. Morning you wake up late. You will be sleepy in the classes. You will be irritable. We will find it difficult to concentrate things. What is that? It's also a light pollution, right? Like the blue light. Blue light will have significant impact on your mental health, isn't it? There is a hormone called as melatonin in our body. This melatonin regulates the biological clock. Biological clock means like when we have this hunger, thirst, sexual drive, all these things will be regulated by this melatonin. And melatonin secretion in turn will be dependent on the availability or the lack of light. And the brain will get confused whether it is day or night, because always you are showing it light. Then definitely it will have impact on the entire metabolism will get disturbed, especially students. Like I sincerely suggest after 9 don't touch your smartphones, tabs, laptops, whatever it is, because if you don't get a good night sleep, see, there is no better willpower booster than sleep, believe me. You guys watch all motivational videos, bullshit. Okay, you watch it, I don't say that you don't watch them, but if you have a good night sleep of say 8.5 hours, something like that, then your day will be very productive. It will be very productive. If you don't get sleep only, you will be irritable, you can't concentrate, you will be shouting on your friends, you will be picking up fights, you don't get hunger on time, and then the entire day will go for disarray if you don't get a good night sleep. So anybody who is serious about preparation, sincere suggestion, after 9 just switch your mobiles, switch your tabs, everything off and keep them aside. It's not that you have to sleep at 9 o'clock. I know you guys won't sleep at 9. At least read newspapers or read from books after that point of time. Yeah. Then anything else you want to add before I conclude today's session to this discussion on individual topics? We will discuss in detail. And as you guys must be already aware, this topic is very important for prelims. Reason being, Indian Forest Service people also are writing the same examination. If you are aware, Indian Forest Service, UPSC Indian Forest Service people also, they have to clear the same prelims exam. And as those people, they are into forest management, so UPSC will, previously it used to give only 7 to 8 questions from environment. Now the trend is 12 to 15 questions are coming up from the environment. And in mains also very good number of questions, at least 4 to 5 questions directly or indirectly in paper 3 itself. In paper 1 also couple of questions on environment. In ethics paper also topics related to environment, and it's highly likely that one essay also will be related to environment. Such significant is this topic on environment, and this is one such topic which also has interlinkages to other parts of the syllabus. Like say it has interlinkages to ideas in economy, it has interlinkages to idea in politics. Say if you are reading about environmental governance, you should have some basics of governance for you to understand the idea of environmental governance. Say ideas like green economy, ideas like circular economy, you should have basics about concepts in economy for you to better understand ideas like green economy, circular economy. Likewise, yes, environmental crimes, you should have knowledge about internal security for you to better understand the idea of environmental crimes. You should, like while talking about ideas like climate justice, climate rights, climate refugees, you should have strong understanding of international relations for you to have better understanding of ideas. So it is one such subject which has interlinkages and interdisciplinary understanding. Got it, ma? Yes. Any doubts related to like preparing for environment? I think you guys would have read NCERTs. Try to read it before you come to classes. All students do this, like in all the institutions without exception. They think that NCERTs will be taught here. Ideally, NCERTs are not supposed to be taught. NCERTs are supposed to be read by you, because they are 8th, 9th, 10th class, right? Have you all completed your 10th class? Obviously, right? You would have also done your undergraduations and come here. Then what's the point in expecting people to discuss NCERTs? What we are supposed to discuss in the classes is way beyond NCERTs, and we do that. Don't stop short of don't stop short of that NCERT level. UPSC is not NCERT level. NCERT will help you understand basics well. NCERT will give you good conceptual clarity. That clarity of thought you will get if you read NCERTs. And what we discuss in the classes is much more or way beyond what's being written in the NCERTs. Okay, so don't expect it's one dumb question most of the students ask, will we be discussing NCERT in the class? No. What's the point in me discussing NCERTs in the class? You have to do it. It's your responsibility. If you are really a serious aspirant, you should have completed your NCERTs before starting your preparation. But because of several reasons, people would not have told us that before starting our preparation you have to start NCERTs. It doesn't matter. You can easily understand them because they are written 8th, 9th, 10th standard. If there is something you don't understand, you just Google. Now there is hell a lot of content in the internet, right? You just have to know how to use this information available in the internet judiciously. No, don't have that mistrust over internet sources. Not that there might be one or two sources which are misleading. Otherwise, most of the sources deliberately they won't mislead anyone. And at least the topic like environment, biodiversity, climate change, it is less opinionated, isn't it? There are not many altering opinions on it, isn't it? Do we have any? We all have to ensure that we have to prevent climate change, isn't it? There is this popular quote, there is no plan B because we do not have planet B, isn't it? We don't have a planet B, so there is no plan B. By hook or crook, we have to minimize human intervention or anthropogenic intervention. We have to minimize our pollution. We have to be less resource intensive. We have to be more environmentally sensitive. Only then we can, prevent all this negative consequences of climate change. There is no debate on that whether we should do or do. No, that debate stage has gone now. We have to act upon, and only then we act upon we can prevent occurrence of these so-called environmental disasters, right? Some people also are linking COVID-19 pandemic to our careless exploitation of resources, isn't it? In some countries, some people's demand for wild animal consumption that has led to a spread of a zoonotic disease, means a disease which has come from animals, right? A disease which has come from animal, and this disease called as corona is said to have come from some bats or pangolins, though it's not conclusively established. And yes, what kind of impact it has on. It's like entire humanity is rewinded for around 5 to 10 years. Now we have to restart the economic cycle, restart many things in our lives, isn't it? Yes. Yeah. Huh. Yes. Understood, ma'am. So what she's trying to say is that for the benefit of humanity, we have to do this animal testing so that larger humanity will get benefited. Mm, 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 mm. Understood. So what she's trying to say is that, see, for us to survive, we have to take medicines, and the medicines have to be tested on animals. Why should we take medicines? Let's be healthy. First of all, let's make a serious attempt to be healthy. As we are making our lifestyles unhealthier, so that's the reason at the very young age you have to start taking medicines. So we have to learn to live in harmony with the nature, but still, yes, in certain contingencies or in emergency conditions, you may have to use medicines. For time being, till technologies evolve, we have no other resort. We have to test on animals. But now that alternatives have come, say now we are using advanced bioinformatics, or we are also trying to do laboratory studies. A time will come, if not immediately, maybe in coming 1 or 2 decades, wherein we can definitely minimize the testing on animals. But what I am trying to say is that meanwhile, we humans, by our conscious effort, we have to lead a healthy lifestyle. We have to lead a healthy lifestyle, good diet, good sleep, good exercise. So all these obviate the need to take medicines. So the demand for medicines, if we are trying to bring down the demand for medicines, definitely it will try to bring down the demand for testing the medicine on animals, demand for testing the medicine on animals. So that's how, at least through this simple thing, in the immediate times we can help the animal, we can help the animals, but in the long run, yes, we have to evolve technologies so that we can develop new drugs which can be tested even without being testing them on animals. Yes, that's the reason we have something called a human genome project. Human genome project is there, wherein we have mapped the entire human genetic material. So in the future, that's going to be an important area wherein the testing of the medicines at the molecular level will be happening at the genomic level. Yeah. True, ma. Yeah. So what you are trying to say that the reason why Indians are buying palm oil is because now, because of some reasons, we have generated some wealth and put money in the hands of the people. So people are in a position to buy palm oil. That's what. So it is an indication that we are witnessing economic growth. That is true, but traditionally, it's not that. Hmm. 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 Olive oil. Acha. Hmm. Got it. Hmm. Yes, ma. Got it. So people are not in a position to afford healthy oils. So people are resorting to unhealthy choices like palm oil. Reason being, we aren't generating adequate wealth. We aren't putting adequate money in the hands of the people. That makes sense, but let's try to understand. Traditionally means for centuries together, isn't it? It's not a new civilization, right? We have civilization for last 4,000 years. Are we consuming palm oil? Are we consuming olive oil, isn't it? Then what oil we are consuming? We have groundnut oil, we have sesame, we have all different forms of oils we already have. The reason why this recent thing has happened is, this will be discussed by your economy faculty, are faulty agricultural patterns, faulty cropping patterns. What is this faulty cropping pattern? Faulty cropping pattern means excessively growing of rice and wheat. Everywhere we are growing rice, wheat, cotton, sugarcane. Why everywhere we are growing only rice, wheat, cotton, sugarcane? This faulty cropping pattern is because of very good. It's because of a faulty policy. What is that faulty policy? Minimum support price. See, government has come up with a faulty policy in the name of minimum support price. It is saying that you grow rice, I'll give you at least some minimum amount of money. You grow wheat, I'll give you at least this minimum money. You grow cotton, you grow sugarcane. Of course, minimum support price is also announced for 26 crops, but effectively implemented only for these 4 crops. If you can see this year's budget also, government is boasting about, say, we have spent around 3.25 lakh crore in disbursing money to the farmers on minimum support price. But this minimum support price is responsible for lack of crop diversification, lack of food basket diversification in the country. Why India is emerging as a diabetic capital of the world? Because people are consuming lots of carbohydrates at the expense of other nutritious food like proteins, vitamins, minerals, isn't it? A balanced diet is one, it should be in a proper proportion. You have to take a recommended dietary allowance. Don't worry, I'll talk all these things in the class again. You have to have a recommended dietary allowance. Your diet has to be very balanced one. Why India has one of the world's largest numbers of childhood obesity? On one hand, you have children who are suffering from malnutrition, stunting, wasting. On other hand, you have children who are suffering from obesity. Because children are consuming more than required amount of carbohydrates. Why are children consuming more than required amount of carbohydrates? Because see, fruits and vegetables are not available at affordable prices, isn't it? A mother want to give her child fruit, a mother want to give her child with good vegetables, but she can't afford. A middle class mother can't afford to buy good vegetables, good fruits to her child, and only thing she can give is some, things like, rice and all. It's available at cheaper prices. So they are overfeeding with carbohydrates. When you are overfeeding with carbohydrates, definitely it will have impact on the health. So that's the reason diabetes, all Indians without exception have tummies, and all like many of the children are also being victims of childhood obesity. And we are not producing adequate pulses, we are not producing adequate oil seeds. Classical example, Rayalaseema region used to be known for dry land farming. They used to grow lots of pulses, they used to grow lots of oil seeds. Now even in Rayalaseema people want to grow rice everywhere. Why? Because of this faulty policies like minimum support price. So we have to diversify our cropping patterns. We have to diversify our food basket. So definitely then that will automatically take care. It's not that we have to consume excess of carbohydrates. Got it, ma? Carbohydrates means rice. Rice is rich in carbohydrates, isn't it? Yes. So we should cultivate more and more of pulses, more and more of oil seeds. It's not that cultivating of oil seeds is new to our country. We have stopped them because of certain policies. Got it, ma? Yes. So I'll stop my class for today. Yeah. So keep doing. If you guys haven't done your NCRTs, just do it. Keep reading NCRTs, and I don't suggest taking notes also. NCRT itself is written in such a way that they themselves have very systematically compiled the information. Just read it thoroughly, and so that you will be more familiar with the topics which I am discussing in the class. You will feel comfortable in the class, and be aware, generally classroom discussions will be slightly a notch higher than the which will be done as part of, because we have to cater to the demand of the exam. If again tomorrow in the exam you see a question which is above the quality of the classroom discussion, then you may feel that we aren't taught this. So generally, not just me, most of the faculties will ensure that we go beyond the NCRTs in our classrooms. Yes, thank you, and make it a point to see the questions now. That's very, very important thing for you to set a direction of how to prepare. The first thing any aspirant has to do is last 5 years environment prelims questions, mains questions, that should always be on your table. Every time, every day. It's not incorrect even if you spend 10-15 minutes of your time on seeing the previous year questions, because that will set you boundaries. Like, boundaries means it's not that boundaries do exist in the literal sense, but at least it will let you know what to study and what to ignore. Alright? Yeah, thank you.
This video is brought to you by AKSIAS.